Today is a historic day for the sport of basketball and for the state of Western Australia.
That's ridiculous! Ross Coleman is very, very best!
We are unleashing a new, powerful movement in basketball where the whole sport comes together under Hoops Fest, the first ever time this has been held.
Welcome back to the Gold Standard as we follow the Australian Boomers, the Opals and South Sudan through these Paris Olympics. And unfortunately for Australia, now 1-1 in the tournament last night. The first half against Canada, outstanding. Second half, not so good at 93-83, the end result against the Canadians. Josh Giddey, excellent in the first half. We'll talk about his second half. Dante Exum's return from injury was a good one, and Jock Landale just continues to have a very, very good campaign. I'm Jack Heverin, Andrew Bogut, Brad Newley alongside me as always. Gentlemen, welcome. I must admit at halftime, I thought that we were going to be talking on a much happier note this morning.
Yeah, it was a good flow early for us, especially offensively. I think we were in a nice little flow there. But I honestly think that was an advantage to Canada. I think they're more stacked to offense than they are defense. They have some good defenders, but I think they're probably better than us offensively. So I thought, going into this game, I think we need to play in the 80s and the 90s to be successful and get a medal. I think that's kind of our sweet spot. Once we start getting into the high 90s, the hundreds, I think it suits other teams. And we just saw our offense completely dry up in the second half. We had 49 points in the first half, and then we had 34 in the second. And there was that spell of 5 or 6 minutes where we just couldn't score the ball. And then it's hard to consistently get stops at the other end. Our defense kind of went downhill during that period as well. So, look, we were in that. That was a winnable game for us, I think. Yeah. We were in that game. I think the scoreline doesn't really reflect how close it was. It was a very good game to watch if you were a neutral fan. But I know a lot of the boys are very disappointed with the result, and they've got a chance to rectify that in a couple of days.
Yeah, I don't know what the Canadian coach said at halftime, but their defensive presence was much more, noticeable in the third quarter. They took up a lot of space. There was no easy catches. And they took away, Josh was getting downhill quite easily. He was playing very fast. And once that speed was taken out of our offense, we really struggled, got very stagnant, had to take tough shots. But, credit to the Canadian defense. They've also got some great shot makers down the other end. And you could see they were clearly targeting guys down the other end on defense. You could see the guys they were putting into screens, putting them in action. They hit some tough ones, but, it's a game played at both ends. And, yeah, once again, our offense led to probably poor defense, and it's a tough one to swallow. But like we said, we got another game Friday.
And just touching on what you said, when you go into this game, if I would have told you that SGA would have 2 fouls within the first couple of minutes and get sent to the bench, I felt like we probably should have had a bit of a better lead with him off the floor, but then they replace him with Jamal Murray. It's like, and then RJ Barrett gets hot. So they've got a very, very deep roster, especially at the offensive end. They've got a good balance of team guys and ISO guys. They've got a really nice mix there. Dwight Powell doesn't need the ball. Birch doesn't need the ball. Brooks doesn't really need it. They'll Dort the same, but then you've got Murray and SGA who you can just throw it to. Barrett who can shoot it. So they've put together a really good roster. But, yeah, if SGA was out of the lineup early, most people would favour Australia, but we just couldn't get enough of a gap for when he came back in the game.
There's a lot to talk about from this game, for good and for bad. But if I was to ask you for your one main takeaway each from the game, Newls, you first, what was the biggest takeaway for you?
Probably trying to figure out a lineup down the stretch. Gorge was scrambling, throwing a lot of things out there. I thought, and probably to add to that, the return of Dante was pretty impressive. He gets a nice look early, gets a layup. That would have been great for his confidence. So is that something they may need to look at, getting Dante out there with that closing kind of lineup?
Yeah, I would say the same. I mean, Dante was fantastic, I think, in spurts where we were struggling to find things. As a big man, it might be a bit of bias, but I think we got to throw the ball inside more. I mean, Jock was fantastic when he caught the ball deep, when he caught the ball just off the block. I mean, I don't know if he missed a shot on a post move. He was 7 for 10. I think he missed a couple of tip-in attempts on offensive rebounds, but it's an advantage to have him down there, and he was doing a great job just getting to his hook on both shoulders we just didn't look for that enough at stages, especially when our offense dries up. I understand when we're in a flow of pick and roll and threes and Giddy's getting downhill, like Newell said in the first half, cool. But I think once things dried up, it doesn't hurt to throw a couple of positions down there because our possessions were coming up empty anyway. So I'd like to see them, try to go to Jock a little bit more. They're not going to make that an emphasis because it's just not the way we play. But that's what I would like to see, especially in that 5-minute patch where we just couldn't find a basket.
What does Luke Longley say? A post catch is as good as any paint penetration. So, and you got to keep the big fellas happy. I said it the other day, and that's a very good point.
Let's talk a bit more about the lineup then. It seems as though it's one of the big takeaways from last night, and Brian Gorshin spoke about it after the game, I guess the need to flip things around, particularly in the second half, 2-3 minute spurts each for a lot of the guys to try and see if you could get something happening. This has been a common theme from day one on this show for both of you, but are we any clearer of what our absolute best lineup is?
I think we got an idea after the preparation games in the first game. I think everyone felt like we were set, and then all of a sudden, Dewop's in the game, like everything kind of changed with a loss, and that's what was always going to happen as soon as the things don't really go our way. I think we got a fair idea. I just think the balance defensively and offensively has always been a challenge, and we talked about this at camp and what that lineup looks like. Coming into the next game, we've got to really focus in on one player who's the best matchup. I think it's a game-by-game scenario, but I'm sure the powers that be, the coaches, they'll be having meetings into the early hours thinking about what the solution is. But I think whatever they go with, they got to trust it and give it some time before they have to make so many changes. Then we're just scrambling.
Yeah, it's still unknown. There's no solidified group to finish with, and Gorge was kind of clutching at straws, throwing random lineups in there. I mean, I didn't expect to see Dewop get minutes, judging on the previous couple of games, but he got more than Magnay last night. But there was only 2.5 to Magnay and just under 4 minutes to Dewop, so not a lot there. It's pretty hard. I think Josh Green's the one that I think he's struggling a little bit, just trying to figure out where he fits. And you see it, very good defensively for us, but you see it at the offensive end, kind of not knowing when to go, when not to go, when to shoot the ball. You can see that he's kind of maybe overthinking things a little bit, a bit of frustration there with his role and what's going on. Not anything toxic, so don't get me wrong there.
Yeah.
It's just more you can see him trying to figure it out, and there's a bit of frustration there. So I think they need to try to find a way to get him a little bit more involved, but it's just the way the offense goes. It is what it is. I think Dyson's done a great job defensively. And Giddy and Jock are our guys offensively. Paddy, you've either got Paddy hot or not. Like I said, leading into this tournament, and I actually got some flack from some people. I think he's either really good or really bad. And we probably need more of a balance from him at times, especially when his shot's not falling. I thought the defensive end, he was not very good. And the shot with Paddy's going to come and go. He's going to have nights where he's 8 for 10. He's going to have nights where he's 2 for 10, but he can't take those gambles that he was taking last night defensively on big possessions. One late where he gambled on Jamal Murray at the elbow to try to get a steal with 6 minutes left, and they swing it to RJ Barrett in the corner. Huge possession, huge possession, gets them from a 6-point game to a 9-point game late. He did a few of those throughout the game, so he just needs to stay a bit more solid defensively. But look, not the end of the world. Like we said, they got Greece. It's a different beast now. Giannis is going to come out very, very angry. You got to take the pain. It's a much different beast coming into this game. But there are a fair few things we need to clean up. And for me, it was offensively, like I said, but then letting that dictate our defense and making some silly plays at that end, especially late.
What happened in the second half? So for those who haven't seen the game in full, Australia led by 4 at halftime, and everything was looking beautiful, offensively and defensively. And as Bogut said, a couple of things fell Australia's way with SGA in foul trouble. But then whatever, as you said, Newell, was said at halftime, the game changed completely. How did it happen?
Oh, I just think the defensive pressure of guys like Dort, him picking up Giddy in the full court, not letting him get ahead of him. I think that made a huge change. Like they were getting out, they were switching some stuff. They just really created some problems for us where we didn't have that space to get in there and pitch and play. So that's definitely one thing to look at for what happened in the second half. another thing, and unfortunately that just dictated the other end. I kind of touched on it before. Us not scoring. A lot of players, when they're scoring up and about, their defense seems to go a little bit better. It's a bit of a habit of some guys, but the second half was definitely a tough thing to deal with for the Boomers. But like we said, it wasn't really a 10-point game. They were right there. They didn't play terrible, but this hopefully we can take some stuff out of this and get ready for the next one.
Yeah, and you just look at the quick stats on team stats. Our biggest scoring run 7-0. Canada's 9-0. Biggest leads 11 for Canada, 6 for Australia. Time leading, we led the game for 16 minutes. They led the game for 19 minutes. So, and the rest was obviously tied. But 9 times the game was tied. 13 lead changes. It was closer than the score reflected at the end. It kind of hurts that Brooks hit that 3 late just to give them that extra point differential. That's a big shot, and you kind of seen in a lot of I watched a fair few FIBA games.
They're playing till the end. Yeah,
there's a lot of players that aren't really used to. We've got the ball with 20 seconds left with the lead. They go to dribble it out, and you see their coaches and their bench yelling like, "Go and score! We need the points differential." So it's a bit of a different mentality. You got to play it till the final step. We were trapping at half court with about 30 seconds left, and then they hit an open 3 in the corner. Maybe we just stay solid there, but. I think, like I said, I'd like to see us focus a little bit more on the defensive end because this isn't a knock. I just don't trust our offense to be first half Canada game on a consistent basis. It'd be silly for you to think that that's going to be a norm. I think we got tricked into a nice flow offensively. Everyone was feeling good. It tightened up in the second half. That's when we got to rebound to our defense and really kind of hold our heads on. We're going to get stops, and it takes pressure on our defense. And last night, the crucial times, we just didn't do that. 13-point fourth quarter really hurt us. And then, like I said, even if you are sputtering offensively, sometimes it is hard to get 5 or 6 stops in a row when you're coming up with donuts at the offensive end because it just puts so much pressure on your defense. So it's a fine balance, but we got to start at the defensive end.
We saw 16 minutes from Dante Exum in his return from a compound fracture in his finger on his shooting hand as well. So there's no doubt that he's playing through pain in last night's game and will for the remainder of the tournament. Do we want to see more minutes from Dante versus Greece?
Yeah, I mean, who knows? I think Dante brings probably a little bit more defensively. It just depends. Look, if Paddy's not shooting it like as well as he has last game, the 2 games ago, if he's not hot, maybe you limit his minutes to more to the low 20s and give those more towards Dante and have kind of a Dante, Dyson, Josh lineup, which I think was good. I think our length in the first half really showed defensively that even though I was scoring, we had the big guards really make a difference. But I think Dante definitely in the lineup, he seems like a steadier. He seems like he's made a really good effort of getting 2 feet in the paint almost every possession. And he's just a solid player for us. I think he creates more of a kind of consistent balance for us. So I'd definitely like to see his minutes go from 16 to the low to mid 20s. But then Jack, as you said, the question is who loses out? Is it Josh Green? Is it Paddy? Is it Dyson? I don't think Josh is losing out. I think Josh is having a phenomenal run in the tournament, shooting the 3-ball really well. 19, 7, and 6 last night, and 3 for 7 from 3. So I think on the tournament he'd be in the 40% from the tournament. I think shooting the 3-ball. So if he continues that, not only does it open up his game for the NBA, but it opens up our game. I just worry that with the way we shoot the ball, 32% as a team. If I would have told you guys we're going to shoot 8 for 25 and Josh Giddey's going to be our best 3-point shooter before the game, you'd probably be like, hang on a second, or Jack McVeigh, hang on a second, that's not right. But he's been probably our most consistent 3-point threat so far in these 2 games.
Newls, talk to us about Dyson Daniels. He was one coming in that perhaps some Aussie fans maybe naively thought that or didn't know enough about Dyson Daniels at times, but he started in every single game of this campaign, including the warm-ups. And last night, he was phenomenal at both ends of the floor.
Yeah, I mean, he mentioned through the media that he wanted to pick up the best player. He picked up SGA and for the most part did a pretty good job. The guy's just a tough player, hit some tough shots. And down the other end, what I'm loving, he's been super aggressive with it. He's getting to the basket. He's playing off 2 feet. He's finding the extra pass. And he's finishing around the hoops, being amazing for a first campaign basically where he's played minutes. So very, very impressed with Dyson. I like the combo him and Josh are forming, and down the track there was a sideline out of bounds, and I was watching with my wife, and Josh found Dyson under the hoop, and I was like, that's the Boomers for the next 10, 12 years. Get used to that, and I think we're in a pretty good place, not only for this tournament, but down the track. A lot of good kids coming through, and they're a perfect example of what our systems can produce.
Let's look ahead now to what's coming up on Friday against Canada. We'll work through the sort of permutations and combinations in a moment, but this game in isolation, Giannis had 27 out of their 77, and for a lot of that game, it looked as though Greece were going to be too strong for Spain, but the Spanish are so well drilled and they finished strong. So let's talk about the obvious and the Giannis matchup.
Back pain. Where the poison's going to be, we got to kind of put bodies around Giannis. The teams that are successful, even if you look at the NBA, FIBA game's different, but teams that are successful against Giannis teams is you got to get to elbows and blocks, and then be flying out to 3-point shooters. You don't want to give him space. If you give Giannis kind of a slither of a gap in the open floor, he's just so dangerous. He's so strong. Like even when I was playing in the NBA, I didn't realize how strong he is. Like, he hit me a few times in the chest, and I'm like, man, this guy's super strong. Like, he started his career super skinny, and now he's really gotten buff in the weight room. But he's so good at going 110 miles an hour and then just Euro stepping you, and then he's got enough strength to finish. We saw that last night. So I think if we, I think Nick Kay probably gets to start on him just to be a solid high IQ defender, but it's going to be other guys. It's going to be your Paddy being, Paddy, or your Josh on the elbows, and maybe digging in, getting a hand in on a deflection as he's driving, but being good enough to get back to the 3-point shooters, because they're going to put 3-point shooters around him. And Greece moved the ball pretty well, but they sputtered yesterday at times offensively as well, where they couldn't score buckets. So I think our defense, again, if we can keep Greece in the 70s, I think we win the game.
Yeah, I think the matchup with the point guard Calafes, that can be an advantage for us. He's not a knockdown shooter so much. So whoever I'd like to see who's guarding him, they're off on that elbow digging in. They showed a little bit of that last night with SGA at times, the boxes and elbow stuff, but we got burned on the kick out. So need to be mindful of who's out there. Papagiannis too, the big guy, he actually shoots the ball quite well. Yeah. So he could be another problem for us down that, and you might see a bit more of Magne potentially to help Jock out to keep him out of foul trouble.
So the combination, it's a simple one in the sense that if Canada beats Spain, Australia simply need to beat Greece, and then the rest takes care of itself, and we will finish second and progress through to the quarterfinals. If by chance, though, we lose, then it becomes a three-way tie on points differential with Australia, Greece and Spain. At the moment, points differential favours Australia if it goes down that path, but again, if we lose, we don't know what that differential looks like. Now, if by some chance Spain beat Canada, which is not out of the realms of possibility, then we must win. The challenge for us, though, in some respects, is that we're playing first. So the Spain-Canada game is second. It would have been nice to kind of know what the equation was before we started.
You win, you're in. Simple as that. These tournaments, you have to kind of look over your shoulder a little bit for points differential and kind of all that kind of stuff. Historically, there were teams that would look at crossovers and try to throw games to go up or down. That's why they've gone to the system of 3 pools of 4, but there's still ways to kind of manipulate it. This one's a bit harder. Euro team's notorious for it. But yeah, I mean, if we win, we're in. We can't really focus on the rest. If we take care of business like we're supposed to, you never want to be, Newls and I have been in these tournaments. Whenever you're in a situation, where your game's over and you have to watch another game and cheer for a certain team, it sucks. It's the worst feeling ever because it's out of your control. We can control it against a team who's, I would say that we're better than. We've got to go in and take care of business early, and it's going to be early for us. Make sure we don't get Giannis going. Make sure they don't get their 3 balls going early, and we'll win the game. But if let's say Spain, I think they're capable of beating Canada because they're, Lul and Andama. Andama is that Andama? Did I pronounce that right?
I've been saying Santi.
Yeah,
Santi.
They've been shooting unbelievably from 3.
Yeah.
You look at what Lul done, some of those threes that he made against Greece, you're just like, wow. So if they get hot and both those guys knock down 5 or 6 threes, you don't know where the game's at. And then you don't know if Canada just say, if we have a small loss here, it's not going to really change things for us. We're still probably going to finish first. It could put pressure on us. But I think if we take care of business early, we'll be fine.
To the Opals, before we finish, a disappointing performance first up against Nigeria. There's no way to hide that. They were careless with the basketball. They really struggled at times to get any sort of offensive flow. He's hoping a much better performance when we play Canada.
Yeah, it's kind of similar that the Nigerians kind of did to the Opals all game what Canada did to us in the second half. They just beat them up. They couldn't get the ball over halfway. Super physical. And to the Nigerians' credit, that was their game plan and it worked for them. They spotted a weakness within the Opals lineup and really capitalised on that. Hopefully the girls can bounce back, that they've got the talent to do it. You know, I'm sure Sandy will be looking at some things, maybe a few terror screens in the half court, things like that to loosen up the point guards a little bit. But yeah, they've got the talent to go and do it. Canada is a strong nation in the girls, but I think our girls should get over the top of them.
Yeah, unbelievably physical game. You know, Nigeria, really were physical. You could notice it throughout the game. Even just Lauren trying to post up, getting thrown all around, getting ragdolled at times. We were careless with the ball, but also you got to credit Nigeria. That was super physical. I think we had mid-20s, high 20 turnover game. You're not going to win a basketball game doing that. Yeah, we just couldn't get back in the game. But credit to Nigeria. I mean, they look super together too. They look like a team that was really, really bonded. I mean, they've been through some stuff over the last couple of years, and it was disappointing for the Opals. And they're really staring down the barrel now with their next two games. They've got some tough teams in their pool, so we're looking forward to seeing how they bounce back.
And then
you could feel that passion through the TV, couldn't you? You felt like they had something in for the Opals. I don't know what happened in the past, but I feel like there was something there in the pipelines. I'm just putting it there. I'm just putting it out there.
Not going near it. Just jump on Bogut's Twitter account if you want to check out what he thinks of it. Not going near either of that.
Just put it out there, man.
Let's talk South Sudan before we finish. Winners first up over Puerto Rico. They won by 11. They play Team USA in their next game. Now, I mean, it was a warm-up game for Team USA, but they were pushed all the way by South Sudan last week.
Yeah, I think South Sudan's goal is it's not so much the win; it's don't get annihilated. So look, no one's picking South Sudan in this game. I don't think any of us are, but it's we're down 10. Don't let it get to 30 or 40. Make sure that we keep this close because then they got a chance in that third spot. They could be the first or second best third place team. So very, very important. They handled their business early like they should against Puerto Rico, which is a huge win for them. Now they're just going to make sure they're playing that point differential. So credit to them. They were staring down the barrel early. Puerto Rico was super hot in that game early, hitting threes from everywhere. And there was, a balance change. And then, they just have so many long athletes that can get it done to both ends of the floor. And they got an open floor, made some shots, and credit to them. It's good to see them get their first win.
We're going to be back on Saturday morning after the Greece game, hopefully with smiles on our faces, and hopefully Australia is progressing through to the quarterfinals. In the meantime, nbl.com.au and, of course, all of the NBL's social media platforms as well to stay up to date with the Boomers, the Opals, and South Sudan during this Paris campaign as well. Bogues, Newells, thanks for jumping up early this morning, and we'll chat in a few days' time.
Not a problem, Jack.
We'll catch you next time on The Gold Standard.